The king of the Norse gods gave up his own eye for a single drink of wisdom. He stabbed himself with his own spear and hung from a tree for 9 nights. And he did all of it in order to learn the future. And what he finally learned was that he was going to die. His name was Odin, the Allfather, the king of the Norse gods. And he was not like the other gods. He did not care, most of all, about war or about power or about gold. Odin cared, above everything else, about one single thing: knowledge. Odin was utterly obsessed with wisdom, with knowing things. He wanted to understand the deepest secrets of the universe, the magic that held the 9 worlds together, and, above all, the future. And he was willing to pay any price at all to get it. Any price. The first great price that he paid was for a single drink of water, because deep beneath the roots of the great world tree there lay a well. The Well of Mimir, and its water was not ordinary water. Whoever drank from it would receive immense wisdom and understanding. But the well was guarded by an ancient and deeply wise being named Mimir. And when Odin, the king of all the gods, came to him and asked to drink from the Well of Wisdom, Mimir named his price. He did not want gold. He wanted something far more personal. He wanted one of Odin's own eyes. And Odin agreed. The king of all the gods reached up to his own face, and he took out his own eye, and he dropped it down into the well. And there, at the bottom of the Well of Wisdom, the eye of Odin remains, staring up, to this very day. And in exchange, Odin drank, and he received the deep wisdom of the well. And from that day on, Odin was one-eyed, a god with only a single eye, and a gaze that seemed to look straight through you. Because he had traded away half of his sight for a far deeper kind of seeing. But it still was not enough for him, because there was a knowledge that even the Well of Wisdom could not give him. The single most powerful magic in all of the cosmos. The runes. The runes were not merely letters or an alphabet. To the Norse, the runes were the very building blocks of reality itself. To know them was to be able to heal wounds and to lay curses, to break any chains, to calm the storms, and even to raise the dead. They were the secret writing of the universe, and Odin wanted them more than anything. But the runes could not be taught. They could not be given to you. They could only be won through an ordeal so terrible that only a god would even dare to attempt it. And the price, this time, was not going to be an eye. This time, the price was himself. So Odin went to the great world tree, Yggdrasil, the colossal cosmic ash tree, whose branches hold up the very sky, and whose roots reach all the way down into the underworld. And there, beneath it, he prepared to make a sacrifice of himself, to himself. Odin took up his own spear, the great spear Gungnir, and he drove it into his own side. And then, wounded, he bound himself, and he hung from a high branch of the world tree, suspended between the worlds, swinging in the empty air. And he hung there for 9 long days and 9 long nights, with no food at all, with not a single drop of water. Wounded by his own spear, swinging in the freezing wind, staring down into the bottomless dark below the tree. And no god came to help him. No one offered him bread or a horn of drink. He simply hung there, completely alone, in the dark, dying, and yet refusing to die, sacrificing himself to himself for 9 endless nights. And then, at the very end, in the depths far below the tree, he saw them, rising up out of the darkness toward him. The runes, the secret letters of all of creation. And with the very last of his strength, screaming, Odin reached down and he seized them. And the very moment that he grasped the runes, his ordeal was finally over. He fell from the tree, back down into the world. But he was changed. He was no longer only a god. He was now the master of the deepest magic in all of existence. He had won the runes, and the cost had been to hang himself and to die and to come back. And now Odin's hunger for knowledge had no limit left at all. Every single day he would send out two ravens, Hugin and Munin. Their names meant thought and memory, and they flew out across all 9 of the worlds, seeing everything and hearing everything. And every evening they would return to his shoulders and whisper into his ears everything that was happening everywhere. Odin had given up his eye. He had hung himself on a tree. He had learned the secret magic of the entire universe. He had become, without any question, the wisest being in all of creation. He knew everything. He could see everything. And that, in the very end, turned out to be the cruelest thing of all. Because there was one final piece of knowledge that Odin, in all of his desperate searching, had finally uncovered. He had learned the future. The real, true future. He had learned exactly how the entire story of the gods was going to end. It was called Ragnarok, the doom of the gods. Odin had seen it in his hard-won wisdom. A final and terrible battle. The sky itself splitting open. The dead rising up. The gods marching out to fight and to fall, one by one, by one, by one. And Odin had seen his own death waiting for him there. He knew exactly how he was going to die. He had seen it with his one eye. A monstrous wolf named Fenrir, grown to a size that could swallow the sun. And in that final battle, Odin had watched the great wolf open its jaws and devour him whole. That was what all of the sacrifice had finally bought him. The eye. The 9 nights upon the tree. All of that pain and all of that searching for wisdom. And the wisdom that he gained was the certain and the completely unchangeable knowledge of his own destruction. Think about that for a moment. The wisest god who ever lived. A god who could do anything, learn anything, see anything at all. And the one thing that he had wanted most of all, to finally know the future, turned out to be the one single thing that he could never, ever unknow. He could see his own doom coming for him, and he could not stop it. But here is the part that makes Odin who he is. He did not despair. He did not give up. Knowing that he was going to lose, knowing that he was going to die in the jaws of a wolf, Odin began, immediately, to prepare for that fight anyway. He built a great hall, Valhalla, and he began to gather himself an army. Every brave warrior who fell in battle down on the earth was carried up to Odin's golden hall. And there they feasted and they trained every single day, getting ready for the end. Odin was building an army for a battle that he already knew with total certainty that he was going to lose. He was preparing with everything that he had for his own funeral. Because to Odin, the wise one, that was the only thing left to do. If the end is coming, and it surely cannot be stopped, then you meet it standing up, with a sword in your hand. And so this is the real truth of Odin. He is not a god of easy power. He is a god of sacrifice, and of terrible, hard-won knowledge. He gave up his eye, and he gave up his very life to understand the universe. And what the universe told him in return was that he and everything that he loved was doomed. And he chose to face it anyway, one-eyed and completely unflinching. The Allfather, who knew exactly how his own story would end, and who marched toward that ending on purpose with his head held high. And maybe that is why, of all the gods, in all of the world's mythologies, Odin is the one who still feels the most deeply human. Because he was afraid of the future, so he gave up everything he had to understand it. And then he found the courage to face the very worst of it anyway. Odin, the Allfather, who traded an eye for wisdom and hung himself for magic and learned the date of his own death and then walked toward it without fear. The god who knew everything and who chose, in the end, to simply be brave. I am Pantheon X. Until next time.